We've opened the webinar. We will be starting in 1 minute at 3:30 Geneva time. So letting people join us, and we'll be starting shortly. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I'm Stéphanie Vinette with the International Organization of Employers. I'm delighted to welcome you to the 5th webinar of the AI XCELERATE initiative. As you know, as part of this initiative launched in 2025, July, the International Organization of Employers, with support from Microsoft, offers free AI courses for SMEs with one goal: to make AI adoption simple, practical, and accessible for small and medium-sized enterprises around the world. The courses AI Fluency and AI for SMEs not only build fluency in AI tools needed to adapt to technological change, but also guide participants on how AI can be used in practical and effective ways. They also address important policy considerations, including regulation and ethical issues, which are really dear to IOE. We're proud to see that the AI XCELERATE online courses have already reached more than 166 certified users worldwide. We're really proud of this number. This growing community reflects both the urgency and the opportunity of this transformation. We encourage all of you to take part and continue your learning journey. You will find a link to both courses in the chat, so do please take the course, if not already done. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Dr. Allison Harnett, Microsoft's Skills Success Advisor for the Americas and Global Partnerships, and talk about AI for cybersecurity. The aim of today's session is to explore how SMEs can use artificial intelligence not only to respond to digital threats, but to anticipate them, to stay a step ahead in a landscape that is constantly shifting. We will look at how AI is reshaping cybersecurity, the risks that continue to emerge, and the practical ways in which these tools can help mitigate them. Cybersecurity is not only about protection, it's about trust, and we've spoken about trust in our past webinar. In a world increasingly built on data, on connection, on invisible exchanges, best cybersecurity practices become the framework of confidence between businesses, their employees, their customers, and their partners. And so this is about a shift in perspective, moving away from seeing cybersecurity as a cost or a technical burden carried in the background, and towards recognizing it as something more fundamental, a strategic investment, a condition for resilience, and ultimately an enabler of growth. So a few housekeeping rules before we start. If you have any questions during the presentations, please feel free to post them using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We also enabled reactions, so as a way to encourage you to engage. So please do engage. And thank you so much, all of you, for listening, for joining us today. Please remember, if you have questions, post them in the Q&A function. Allison, over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to join you for this last session. I've really enjoyed doing these webinars. You may have seen me in December where we started off with doing that demystifying AI, and then Aashi joined you for AI and productivity, and then I did responsible AI building trust, which I feel like is an undercurrent to what I'm talking about today, which is cybersecurity. In the meantime, Aashi joined you in March to talking about leveraging AI for growth. And Aashi will continue and close out the series with growing your business with AI in May. And so, it's always been a pleasure to stop by and visit with you and talk about how SMEs can benefit from various aspects of AI as more of a complement to the online certification that you can take if you haven't taken it already. So to start us off, let me introduce myself for those who don't necessarily know me. I am based out of Kansas City, which is in the middle of the United States. I have a PhD in physics and math, and so that is how I started my career, teaching various different STEM experiences, mostly at the university level. But right now I work for the Microsoft Elevate Skills team, which allows me to bring training of AI to nonprofits and educational institutions and workforce agencies throughout the world, mostly focusing on the Americas, but then also some of our global partnerships like the IOE. Today, we're going to talk about kind of the what is AI in cybersecurity, what is that threat landscape now that AI exists, then talking about oversight and guardrails, which is kind of that more rigorous portion. And then at the very end, I wanted to share some best practices that you can do today to protect yourself and your organization, just so that you can walk out with actionable tips. So I always think it's important to discuss what the learning objectives are, what I think that you should be learning by the end of this session. So hopefully you will understand what AI cyber risks looks like now, how to recognize situations that might deserve a pause, and some ideas how to build a security framework, and then lastly, walk away with some ideas of things that you can use right away. To start us off, I'd love to just do a quick poll. Feel free to enter this in the chat. How much more likely do you feel that you are to fall for an AI-generated phishing attack that would be tricking you to give up information or access versus a traditional attack? So a traditional cyber attack, how, depending on however likely you are to fall, where do you think that you might be? Would you put a 1 in the chat if you think you are less likely to fall for an AI-generated phishing attack? Put a 2 if you think there's no difference, it's going to be about the same. 3 is you're more likely, about twice as likely. And then 4, significantly more likely, like 4 times as likely. And then put a 5 in the chat if it's extremely more likely, like up to 10 times more likely that you would fall for this attack. And I love that people are voting. I see 1s through 4s. I don't see a 5 at the moment. But I do appreciate you taking that time to think about what would the probability that you would fall for this a phishing attack. And as you continue to vote, I'm going to just kick off our next session, which is going to be, and I promise you I will share the answer, talking about the AI-enabled cyber threat landscape. And this is what I want to talk about, that AI doesn't really change why attacks happen, but it does change the speed that attacks can happen, the scale, and the realism. And so with that kind of in mind, I'd love to just kind of share a little bit. And I'm just taking a moment to look at all of these great numbers in the chat. I do appreciate your vote. And go ahead and give me a reaction if you are ready for me to share the answer. Looks like people have answers. So we've finished voting. Excellent. All right. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. You are actually significantly more likely to fall for an AI-generated attack. It's about 4.5 times more likely as a rate of success, for which is usually measured by what the person is clicking on that link. And the way that I actually got this from is from our recent digital defensive report that just showed up. I think it was like in December. But so one of the things that gave me pause when I had this thought is that just by using AI to create some cybersecurity phishing, you are definitely significantly more likely to actually fall for it. Which means that we have to be even more vigilant. So AI totally is changing the way cybersecurity is working. And I personally use AI in my home life and my professional life. I realize I might be biased given the fact of where I work, but those same benefits of AI that I use can be misused by tricky people. And so attacks can be created faster, sent to more people, and often written with fewer mistakes. So the old detection habits don't always work, and it's a lot easier for people to be attacked. However, that being said, I don't want to assume that we all know what those old traditional phishing attacks are, because it's still valid to be vigilant. And so I want to play a brief video. I will put the link to the chat also. Hopefully you can hear it okay, but basically it describes what phishing is, just to make sure that everybody is on that same page.
Phishing is a way crooks try to bait you into giving up your personal or financial information. When you see an email that seems a little fishy, you can sniff it out. Let's look at some of the common features of phishing. There's a sense of urgency. Something is going to be canceled, money is due, or maybe there's a reward, and it's imperative that you act right now. Although it may say it's from a company you know, look carefully. That email address certainly doesn't look right. There's a lot of bad email out there. Major email providers filter and block dozens a day before they reach your inbox, but still some get through. That's one reason phishing emails may look sloppy with bad grammar or strange formatting. They're trying to get through the filters. Some phishing emails will include an attachment. Never open attachments you weren't expecting, even if they appear to be from somebody you know and trust. If you receive a surprise attachment, reach out to them. Confirm the attachment is legitimate before you open it. The same is true for links in email. If you mouse over one, you can see where the link is going. That looks fishy. Instead of clicking the email link, it's safer to go to the company homepage through your browser. So, what should you do? Reporting it will help block other attacks like this, and should move the email out of your inbox. If not, you know what to do. Delete it. For more, go to support.microsoft.com/security.
Let me give you the link to that. That way you can watch it in your preferred language as time goes on. So as this video demonstrated, we used to rely on some famous things like misspelling, bad grammar, but AI now can create polished messages that will pass through our filters. So grammar alone isn't going to be that reliable signal anymore. I think I mentioned it in other webinars, but I'm dyslexic. And so actually the grammar and misspellings are things that just appear normal to me. So it never was something that I actually was able to always fish out. But I know that most people will be able to recognize something as incredibly poor grammar. So the other thing that I think is really concerning is that tricky people can use AI messages to create more personal experiences. They might be able to imitate a supplier, or they'll take data from that is known about you on the web, and everybody has lots of information about us on the web. And so any of this is going to be a way to have you put down your guard and where the message appears trustworthy, so that you can click and share whatever information they want from you. As we go through, don't forget to put your questions in the Q&A. I have time at the end to answer them. But if you attended my Responsible AI session, you may have remembered that we talked a little bit about deep fakes, where deep fakes are taking images or pictures of images or videos of people, sometimes actually audio clips that's designed to impersonate people without their consent. And when these fake images, videos look convincing, they can damage reputations, but they can also lure you into safety, thinking that, oh, this is really your boss that is sending you an email saying, a video message saying, please, can you transfer the funds to the blah, blah, blah thing, or whatever that might think. And so being aware that deep fakes exist in the context of cybersecurity is something that is definitely important to think about. So do keep that in mind. The other thing that I will highlight is that security risks show up outside of email, including on social media and messaging apps like WhatsApp. So it used to be just email is where you would find all of those phishing attempts. Not true. Text messages definitely. And so they'll all, you're going to be using AI to help make those messages sound convincing. So my general tip is to pause and verify any sort of request before reporting it. So let's play a game. And I think I saw briefly someone asked what the numbers are in there. It's just my little way of creating polls with our team, with our group. You may have remembered from the intro, I started off teaching physics and math. And as you might guess, physics and math, there definitely were students where they had that glazed over look in their eyes, like, I have no idea what you are saying. And it was great to be in a classroom itself, so I could look in someone's eyes and recognize, oh, they clearly don't understand what I'm saying. And so therefore, let me try and explain it another way. But since we don't have the opportunity for me to look in your eyes when you're confused, we have that Q&A for you to enter in, and then also this game. So for this game, you get a message from a senior leader. We need a payment to whatever this vendor is, approved in the next 30 minutes, or the shipment's canceled. It looks authentic. What do you do first? So number one is you're going to verify this with a call or a chat from a different system. 2, you're going to acknowledge the message, but don't act. 3 is you're going to check the normal approval process. And then 4, you're going to escalate this to get it approved. So think about what you would like to do. And I will say that as I was creating this slide, the most ironic thing happened. My colleague texted me, said, I cannot get into Teams. Please help. What should I do? And I had to verify that it was him, that he couldn't get into Teams, and what did he want me to do? So all same things that happen. And I see that you guys are voting. As you continue to vote, I'm going to transition us into AI cybersecurity oversight and guardrails. These are kind of these best practices that organizations can think about to really help perfect their cybersecurity infrastructure. So I see a lot of ones in the chat. Very, very good. So before I move on, I see a 2. Is there anyone who needs a little bit more time before that final vote on where you are in terms of playing this game? If you do, go ahead and give me a reaction. Okay. A few more people need a few more moments to vote on this payment, or I think actually people. So it sounds like people are voting still on what the right choice is. All right. And I do see people have started putting questions in the Q&A, which is great. All right. Looks like we're doing great. Let's flip over to the answer. So this one is tricky. So I think a lot of people want to go to option. The tricky people want us to go straight to option 4, escalate it and get it removed, get it approved. And I was really glad that nobody put that in the chat. So thank you very much. I answer 3, where you check the normal approval process, is a really great place to start. But since you don't really know if this is even valid, I'd be hesitant to do anything through normal channels at all. And it feels like we would want to reply quickly to anyone in senior leadership, particularly, if it's like a boss's boss or someone like that. But really, replying can signal to those tricky people that this is a valid method of communication. So instead, the best answer is contact that leader another way. If they message you through Teams, maybe text on their phone or vice versa. Maybe you're using WhatsApp, whatever systems you have in place, an entirely different method, maybe you're emailing them or something like that, something entirely different, and just assume the original communication is compromised. It turned out that my colleague wanted me to pass on a message that he wasn't going to be able to attend the meeting. It wasn't urgent. But it did give me pause to think about how would I have reacted if he wanted something else? What if he needed me to approve something? Would I have done it? We've texted before, mainly because we're friends outside of work. All right. So one of the things that I think is easy and hard when you're thinking about cybersecurity and infrastructure is to keep up with the literature. Things change so quickly. And so bad actors are going to take AI and they're going to harness it to do whatever they can to make harm for others. So you want to make sure that your organization is up to date on the latest trends and best security practices, and really be prepared to react quickly. Things change almost overnight. So plan to adapt and change as needed. In fact, one of the news articles I saw recently is about how when you think about AI and cybersecurity, it now needs to be entirely within the context of AI, just because AI is going to be so ingrained. So again, if you saw my Responsible AI session, we talk about AI governance that has both the principles of AI, a standard that you would have, implementation and oversight. And I just want to highlight those parts that actually have cybersecurity in mind and that they really do overlap. Specifically, that privacy, security, transparency, the reliability and safety among our general AI principles. Implementation, all of your training and tools should be thought of with cybersecurity. Here at Microsoft, we designed with cybersecurity first, with the idea that you're going to assume that you're going to be attacked. And so all of our tools, any of our products are built with that in mind. And then when you're thinking about oversight, monitoring, auditing, reporting, you definitely want to think about where in there is cybersecurity. In fact, I alluded to this a little bit on the last slide, but our organization, we have zero trust. And zero trust is the idea that you're going to adopt a policy assuming that cyber attacks are going to happen. It's not an if question, but a when. And because we're assuming that an attack will happen, we're going to design systems so the attacker's not going to get far. We're going to verify everyone's identity, and we're going to limit their access as much as possible. And so, one of the big things is that when I'm sharing links among colleagues or even outside, partners, I only give access to that individual person who needs to see that. And if anyone else needs access, they need to request it, just so that none of the documents that I'm sharing go far beyond what I'm looking at. So when we think about AI, the other thing that I would like to point out is that even though tricky people use AI, the good guys use AI also. And AI really is helping our security teams to identify those bad actors. And it doesn't replace humans, but it does the first pass of looking at risks and figuring out, is this something to react to? They can we filter out what might be, the noise and benign things, and bring up to security teams what are the issues that are most pressing. And so as you're thinking about cybersecurity, we've been talking a lot about how bad actors are harnessing cybersecurity and AI, but remember the good guys are harnessing cybersecurity and AI also. And definitely, think about how that part can be used. So when we think about this is one of those things when you're asking small businesses to pay attention and be part of, stay on top of the literature. It's a hard ask for a small business. A lot of small businesses are doing a lot of things. And so you may not have an entire cybersecurity plan, but you can also think about what's important to you, how you want to interact with your AI systems, and what parts of cybersecurity you want to recognize when they've changed in the age of AIs. And there you can choose practices and products accordingly to kind of help you organize yourself. But one of the things about an organization is only as strong as its individual members. And so this is where those personal best practices are incredibly important. The personal best practices, these everyday habits that you can control that will collectively reduce risk, not only for your organization, but for your personal life also. So I'd love to know who's seen a similar post on social media. So excited to spend the week in Victoria Falls. Share a reaction if you've seen a similar post like this. Seen anyone do a post like this on social media? Yep. See, a couple people have seen that. Maybe it's not necessarily Victoria Falls, but it's some sort of location, right? What about this one? The day in the life of a chicken farmer. This one actually, we moved to land and the previous owners left their chickens. So now I guess we could call ourselves chicken farmers. And so we definitely were watching a lot of YouTube videos of people who raise chickens to kind of get an idea. But it definitely would show their life and their home as they kind of brought things to. I see a couple of reactions. People have seen similar things of that nature. What about this one? I've been pleased to announce that I've received a promotion at Acme Corporation, whatever that is, and I'm now the director of marketing or whatever that tale is. Yeah, people have seen something like this, right? Especially if you are a LinkedIn person. I know I'm personally a LinkedIn person. Of course, that's owned by Microsoft, so it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, definitely. And yeah, Grace is saying like, oh, look at all the data that you're sharing. So yeah, what about this last one? Maybe locked out of my bank account again. Anyone else dealing with this? Oh, I know people have seen some things like this. Yeah, I'm seeing some reactions that people have definitely seen social media posts like this. They may be ones that you've done or you've seen friends do. And I personally love all like social media and hearing what's happening with my friends, my colleagues, people I don't necessarily see that often. But at the same time, there are some things that allow you to share the information that people that people can be used later on. So when you think about like role, travel plans, or anything about your location, don't do it live in the moment. Instead, wait till after the events are over. If you're doing a role, keep the role details high level, not specific. Any posts of any sort of internal tools, emails, or messages can be used to actually have people then take that and create a screenshot that looks like it's a valid document or make it look like an email that's valid. So you just want to avoid screenshots entirely, summarize the experience, don't use visuals at all. Any sort of org changes, announcements, promotions, especially in the middle of it, that's the perfect time where people can exploit, where there's that we're not really sure how that rearrangement is going to go. So just wait until everything's official and finalized. Even if it's like a month or two later, that's perfectly acceptable. And then make those the things. Posting about systems issues or work frustrations. Again, it's just another way for bad actors to take a look at that confusion and share through it. So always share your feedback internally instead of through public social media. Same thing with that like bank account example. You know, if people know that other people are being locked out, well, if you know who's all on using bank account XYZ, then you can then send emails to those individuals and say, oh, I hear you guys are locked out. Here's the way to do it. And then tagging colleagues, partners, or locations without context. Always ask before tagging your people or keep the post high level. This is really important because you don't want people to infer where people are, and not everybody wants to be tagged. So just those best practices with social media. Like when my daughter was born, one of the big things that we said is that we did not want her face on social media. And so friends would post like pictures from her, like her back or something like that, if they wanted to post something, you know, and we'd approve it beforehand. But things like that, just kind of keeping in mind. So I think QR codes are around everywhere. They're so convenient. They're on restaurants, they're flyers. I've even seen them on sidewalks. One of the things is that you don't necessarily know where the QR codes lead. So you always want to verify who created the QR code, because you're basically clicking on a link onto your device. And you want to make sure that that link is safe. Just like when you're clicking on a link in your email, you want to verify that that's safe before clicking it. So you want to make sure that links are expected and that you know where they are and you know whose QR code it is before you scan it. The other truly interesting, I guess, way to be careful of is public Wi-Fi. I think public Wi-Fi is so easy and convenient. It's around everywhere. But these networks are used to access your devices. So you want to be careful, especially if you're connecting with a generic name like cafe_guest or whatever, that appears to be a public network, but it could be just a tricky person creating a public network that is actually going to do something malicious to your computer. So it's the same sort of, or your device. So it's the same sort of thing. I personally always use a mobile hotspot or direct cellular data to connect at all times, even if I think that the place is trustworthy, unless it's like a verified network. So just always kind of taking that extra step. And remember, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. We have some time at the end. Lastly, sharing files. I mentioned this before, that I only share files specifically to the people that I choose. And if I attach a file, and the reason why is because if I attach a file, then it can be forwarded to anyone. So it's important for sensitive documents also, but I do it for every file I share, just as a practice, just as a long-term approval. I was sharing a file with my veterinarian, and I did the exact same thing. Even though it was not something any benign, it was just like weights of an animal. But just kind of, making sure that everybody has only the access that you need. So for approvals, any sort of, and just these ones that are requests, urgency is one of the easiest ways for cyber attacks to happen, because people prey on everyone's nature to be a good person. And so if something's truly urgent, take a few moments, verify that it really is before you even act on it. So for username and passwords, the best practice is a unique username for each, a unique username and a unique password, so that if one of those is compromised, not all of your logins are compromised. I will say having a collection of usernames and passwords is hard to manage mentally, because you're not really sure which site does which. And so there are things like password managers that exist that reduce the burden of helping and helps you stay secure without that memorization. I did happen to notice the New York Times, like Wirecutter, just recently, within the last week or so, was doing a series of articles on like the best password manager, and kind of some of those, an authenticator, which we'll talk about in a second. So, if you're not sure of which product to use, but also most browsers have a password manager also that you can implement. And just having something like that is definitely helpful. There are stronger ways to sign in than passwords. And in fact, the latest cybersecurity best practice is to move away from passwords entirely, and use other forms of authentication. And the most secure and the latest one is what's known as a passkey. A passkey is basically a it lets you sign into your device, like your phone or your laptop, with like a Face ID, fingerprint, or a device PIN instead of typing in the password. But your device is the proof of your authenticity. So you have to log in. When you sign in, the device is like, are you really you? And then the device confirms it's you and then unlocks it. But the passkey is only tied to this actual real website. So you can't go to a fake website and enter in your credentials. And so right now, the latest and greatest is passkeys as the best practice for signing in. In addition to that, there are hardware security keys, and these are little like USB or USB-Cs keys that you would carry around. I have one in my wallet where you can plug into a device. And again, it works the same way. You tell the device it's you, and then now that you have that, then it's you, then it will go to that particular website, or like you can use it with your password, your device password, and unlocking too. And so you can't spoof it. The other one, sometimes you tap with the hardware security also. You'll tap something. Lastly is multi-factor authorization. And this is a password with a verification by another means. And this, I think people have seen oftentimes. You'll enter your password and they'll say, I need to send you a text or send you an email, and you have to click on that to move through, or they'll send you a password that you have to enter in. That tends to work really well. But what they actually recommend is kind of a different one, is an authenticator app. And so this is something that you install on your phone, or I think you can probably install them on computers. I've always had it on my phone. And basically with that, what you would do is the website would, you would go to that particular website, and like I have a list of different organizations in my authenticator app, and then I click on the one that I want, and it provides me with a code that I can enter in for that one-time password. It also will sometimes do a push notification, and you enter it in through the authenticator. So depending on kind of what authenticator app you use, or like what organization system it is. So like for Microsoft logins, I use the Microsoft Authenticator, and it will push a notification, and I have to prove a number that is exactly the same on the screen and on the Authenticator app. But so when I think of these, I think of entering a building. So a password is like showing a badge. Anyone can take your badge. But multi-factor authorization, multi-factor authorization is more like that you're going to have to not only show your badge, but then the security guard at the door is going to have to prove that it's you. So even if someone steals your badge, they can't get in. And so the more that we can put these processes in place, remember this is zero trust, that we can stop bad actors from getting far. So maybe they do compromise your login at one website. They're not going to compromise your login at multiple websites. All right. I know this is a lot of information, and I'm really excited. I saw that there were some Q&As in the chat, in the Q&As entered in. So I'd love to go over some of your Q&As, what things you're thinking about. Wow, okay. So there are a lot. So let's see here. Is it still possible to find for an AI phishing when you have two-factor authorization or an ID verification your financial account? Yes. You still can, because you definitely, just by doing even with your account, like especially text messages can be spoofed. So you definitely still want to have something stronger than just two-factor authorization, like an authenticator app or even a passkey. I notice my bank actually has a passkey now that you can set up. And I see, are AI risks similar to mainstream cyber threats? They are similar in a way, but they're not entirely the same. because AI threats can be harder to attack, to discern sometimes. And so you just have to be more vigilant. What are the weaknesses when AI is used for the cybersecurity of banking part? So, I mean, I'm not a banker. I'm not in the banking system, but one of the things that I would say is that, you want to try and bank with those organizations that are going to use those highest level of authentication. So are they going to use like an authenticator app? Are they going to use a passkey? Something along those lines. Some banks will actually use the hardware security key too. Use those best practices. And then let's see here. Another program soon. I really hope there is. Let's see here. I'm just making sure that there are some questions about credit. Some authenticator apps require information that we prefer not to give. Are there any that don't need it? Almost every authenticator app I know requires like an email and a phone number, but I'm not positive of that. And the definition of phishing, Thomas wanted that definition again. Absolutely. Phishing is where tricky actors send you something and they want you to try and collect a link. And so phishing is more of the fact that, like phishing, like with an F, is like you're throwing out your reel into the ocean and you try and catch a fish, but you don't really know what you get. Phishing with a PH is that same sort of thing. You're throwing out all these malicious links out to many, many people with the hope that one person is going to click on that link. And it might be something like, your bank account is frozen, click here to reset it. Or it might be, we need to transfer money to solve this vendor, click here to send that over. Milk asked a really great question. What authenticator app do you recommend? I really can't recommend them. I personally use the Microsoft one, but definitely there are many out there. Many different companies have them. Most of the big tech companies that have a phone like product will have one, like Apple and Google and that sort of thing. So you can always get one associated with your phone. And then there also are third-party authenticator apps. I believe the New York Times did a review of them. And then I'm just making sure that I haven't missed any questions real quickly. Yeah, what's the best way to handle your prompt unsafe password? That's a really great question. That is the browser asking you to do a password protect. And honestly, I think browsers, their password managers are actually really pretty good. I personally use the Edge one all the time. But using it within your browser, you save the password. That's perfectly fine. If you want, there are third-party applications that you can use that'll save your passwords for you. They're like, password managers, and they would do the same sort of thing as your browser does. And it's truly, up to you as to which one you do. Some of them require a cost, some of them are free, and definitely do the work that you would like to do. Oh, I love the idea of like practicing on the site. So, and I'm just making sure that I'm not missing any questions, and then we can share the slides out. And then, yeah, I think I'm just double checking that I haven't missed any questions. I don't think I have. So I will double check, and if so, I will enter them asynchronously. But go right ahead, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Allison. I think you've covered, I'm also looking at all the questions, you've covered all the questions, and I've learned again quite a lot. And I think the keyword I'm retaining from this session is verification, because all the issues you raised requires verification, requires us to verify twice where the email comes from, where the source comes from. The password manager also is about verification. And I think the password manager is also a great tool to help us remember our passwords, because I don't remember all my passwords. So it's very helpful to have an external third-party password manager who can deal with this memory issue and keep all my passwords in one place and make sure that this is safe, protected, and I know that I won't have any issues with leaks of my passwords. Thanks also, Allison, for giving us some tips related to scanning QR codes. It's so easy now to scan all those QR codes, but you're so right. We need to verify the source, where they come from. So unless it's not specified where the QR codes come from, I think it's very important that you flag that. And social media, the use of social media, I think it also calls on us to put some common sense in how we use social media as well. And especially for our businesses, because we don't want to share sensitive issues, sensitive topics on social media that can be misused. So thank you for reminding us of that. And I think, all the tech tools are here to make our lives easier. But we really need to be very careful on how we use it. And verification is here really key. And thanks for raising awareness to the various risks, phishing, deep fakes, and those are all words that we keep hearing. And I think you've shed light on the concepts, on understanding what they are, and this was also very, very useful. Allison, I think I'm going to close the session for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. This was very insightful, as I said. We have our next last session, I understand, the 6th AI XCELERATE webinar. This was the last one with you, Allison, but we have another one coming up on the 21st of May, where we will be talking about growing business with AI. So here we are. Do join us for the last session, Growing Your Business with AI, on May 21st. Do register. You have also now Allison's contacts on the screen. Reach out to Allison to go deeper on the topic if you have questions on the presentation she just made, a feedback. I'm sure Allison would very much appreciate it. We look very much forward to seeing you for the next session in May. And meanwhile, we wish you a very nice day, evening, and rest of the week. Bye-bye.